Hello, everyone. Welcome to Five of the Week, where we look at Mexican song technical difficulty Simpsons, even though it was actually not a Mexican song, it was the Spanish Flea. Yeah, we have a lot of things to talk about. It's been a long while since we last been here, but the league just goes on and on anyway. So, what better than to hear us talk about it? I think there's a lot more better things to talk about, but. Yeah, first on the agenda, obviously, we have a SBA champion here with us. It's Nepto once again. How are you doing?
Mm.
Woo!
I'm pretty great. Yeah, yesterday was a good sim league day. You don't get those often. I mean, Lightning won,
Especially here.
Rampage won. Um, couldn't have gone any better in the end.
Oh, Lightning also won, huh? That was
Yeah, they won
yesterday.
the SPDL finals, and
Ah,
after being ringless for so long, now it's suddenly two rings. Um,
yeah. Yeah. You beat us last year in the finals and this year in the first round. Yes. I thought that was already on Saturday. Wait, what? Now
I
Saturday.
mean, yesterday was Friday.
Yeah.
Today's Saturday, yeah, after
Yeah.
all.
So it was definitely not on Saturday. Well, it was actually on Saturday if you take into account time zones. But anyways, yeah,
The
the
White Knights already driving you crazy up there in the north.
mm, yes,
Or oh, isn't it the White Knights yet? You still have some dark
I think in
around
Helsinki,
midnight.
like the sun goes down in Helsinki, but if you go northern then whatever like there's a line in the
Yeah,
longitude, I think, where yeah, it's a set thing. But in Helsinki, the sun went down for like 1.5 hours yesterday. But now it's gonna be more because after today, it's gonna be the shortest night of the year, and then
really.
it's yeah, it's
I
already
thought
now.
when I thought I won when I was in St. Petersburg in mid-July, from mid-July on, I think we still had some dark less nights.
Weird.
But maybe I just started napping right around when the sun finally went down. Um,
Mm. Yeah,
who
the
knows?
summer solstice is literally today, so that's what I'm
Yeah,
basing it on. Yeah, but
makes
it's
sense.
not driving me crazy. It's just driving me very mumbly bumbly. Let's just take a quick look at the Oklahoma City Rampage that took the wait, what? What's it saying here? I need to be certain. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
searching
yeah,
for the
yeah.
team they played in the finals. So
No. I knew how they played the finals, but I was just having trouble remembering who beat the Ravens on their way there. So this is like one of those very fraudulent rings that everyone talks about. Like since the opponent Prowlers beat the Ravens in the semifinals and Rampage now beat the Prowlers. On their way to the finals, they beat the Chiefs, Vice, and then Prowlers in the finals. So yeah, a lot left to prove for next year for our superstar players such as Tillman Feisterer, Darius Jordan, Cactus, and Omar Bleu. This is one of my favorite things since the last
fan
time.
favorite.
Yeah, last time we talked about it was like, what's Omar Bleu doing? And now Omar Bleu is starting small forward on the reigning SPA champion. So, what did you think of the playoff week experience? And would you actually have preferred to play against the Ravens just to see what comes of it, or are you just proud to be champions instead and fuck that?
I mean, obviously, I'm happy I finally made it over the hump. I mean, for all of us, it's the first ring. So, uh, Omar, Omar, or be it Rory, I think he didn't win one with his prior players, um, and especially Zeke and Tomato. So we finally have that first ring under our belt. So that obviously feels good. But we also wanted the Ravens back. I mean, we lost to them twice in the last three seasons in the
Mm,
finals. Um, and now we wanted our revenge. We were very confident that we could take them on again, but it didn't happen. Philly played them very well and then gave us a hard fight as well. So it wasn't really gifted to us in any way.
yeah,
But yeah, it's good to be on top.
What do you think about the like general power structure now that the Prowlers had players on their starting lineup such as Jason McGilligan and John Wick, and obviously you guys had Feisterer and Omar. Um, what do you think about the like structure of the like the top teams in the SPA right now, since it's not like all too similar to what we well actually we've come to expect it, but not maybe what we've grown up on. So there is a maybe a sort of a one way point guard player, maybe another like low level player in their year 1, year 2, year 3, somewhere between 300 and 750 TP in the starting lineup. What do you think about this phenomenon compared to like 4 actual good players or even 5 actual good players and a bench guy?
I mean, it's obviously the result of the lowering cap and the lowering talent level overall that we see teams geared towards a handful of star players and then obviously some role players in between. To be honest, I think all 4 top teams relied pretty heavily on some kind of star big man. I mean, for Philly it was Creed, for the Ravens obviously Muad'Dib. For the Vice it's Kunta down low, and then the Rampage with playoffs MVP Leon Londell. So I think big men are currently the name of the game a bit, and surrounding them with some decent guards seems to work quite well. I mean, I had my doubts about Philadelphia, as Hattie is not getting tired of pointing out, that they would make it this far, because I thought their backcourt, especially Wick, would shoot too much at a too low percentage, um, and cost this team the edge they need in the playoffs. And I think that's still kind of true, even though they proved me wrong. They went far and played very well. But I think, yeah, we will see this continue to go like a weak backcourt and a strong front court until some kind of backcourt player is good enough to mop up those weak backcourts on contending teams
Mm.
that contending teams need to adjust to stop them.
But it is interesting though because like often it's been tried like it's not certain that a like a MVP caliber or a definite point guard of the year player would like break through a strong defense, even though it's like weaker TP level guards they're going up against. So I find it
Mm.
very interesting, like if it's just gonna go on like this, like till the end of time, or until there's some sort of a rule or bill changes more. And yeah, I think it's interesting, but it's sort of following the same structure than the Houston teams that won recently a lot of championships, which is good because obviously if you see a pattern of someone succeeding in a way, then if you can mimic that to the best of your ability, and there's no like it's not really shameful or anything like that. But in this case with the Rampage, it's Lundell only in year 6 and already the playoffs MVP in the SPA. So obviously, like the season, regular season Lundell put up this year was excellent, anyways. But do you think this could, like, hopefully, birth a sort of a mini run for Rampage that they could be in the playoffs and in the finals again next year and even the year after that?
I think next year definitely. The talent is still there. Magnus just going to take a step back, obviously, in year 10 now. I successfully managed to delay that one by 1 season. But at some point, regression is just hurting too much, so he won't be that good anymore. But Bridges Jr. and Lundell are such good players now entering their 7th season that. I think the Rampage are very much in the contending group once again. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think this just goes to show, if we look at the playoff teams, I think another trend beside the we go for big men right there is the amount of freaks that are key players in the playoffs. I mean, if you look especially the Miami Rampage series, you had like on each side a standard point guard and then 4 freaks on the court. I think the Ravens are also still 3 or 4 freaks deep.
well, maybe not right now, but still were in the season.
Yeah, somewhere deep, 3D, Calderon, and Malphite Doom also 4 freaks. And I think Billy had only Sharp and Sano, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but it is interesting, and I'll be more interested to see how the league shapes up when there is no more freaks like in the SPA, since there's no ability to create a player like that, like and a carbon copy of say Magnus Ekstrom or Bas El Melaini anymore. But for now, until then, I think it's gonna be like maybe it's not like proof of concept, but it's because people like the optional or optionality that comes with freaks, and all kinds of top players are currently freaks. So that just leads the way for now, and probably will until there's no more freaks left in the SPA. So
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
something I should take a look at. Do you remember when we talked about this the last time, like when Pittsburgh was in the finals and we had no freaks at all?
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, but since then it's like
No, I remember. I
yeah,
remember.
it's the same
Um,
conversation all over again. Like I don't know if it was lucky or if it was just because like we also happen to have the very best 2 or 3 players in their positions, and they just happen not to be freaks. But yeah, maybe if, Isaac Cannon was the same player, but instead was a shooting guard freak, maybe would have done better. Who knows? Anyways,
I'm not quite
yeah, I'm
sure.
not.
Or shooting out maybe a small forward freak. But I don't know if it would have made that much of a difference. I
Yeah,
mean, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I think that run was also kind of carried by Cass being by far the best point guard in the league
yeah,
at that point. Um, and just like I said earlier, at some point those low TPE guards or weaklings on the guard spots could get exploited by a superstar point guard and then like force a change in the opposite direction when people try to emulate set superstar guards or try to expose the weaker guards. So
yeah. I think something we need to do to like again like create some hype around the guard positions is just to agree to vote a point guard player to be the MVP of the league, because I think like when that has happened a couple of times, like a guard player has been like when Steven Shepard was for the MVP, and then when there's been other players like right around there, like it's created some new buzz, because like I think a lot of people who create players in the SPA would like to be point guards, but then at some point they figure that yeah, I have a better shot at like making it if I happen to be like, let's say, a shooting guard freak instead, or even a center, pure center. But yeah, that remains to be seen. Until then, and yeah, with the new positional changes that you can make a player who can play any 2 positions, maybe that also creates some interest there.
yeah, I mean,
But
if we wouldn't have gotten rid of it, I was heavily debating between freak shooting guard and freak point guard when I made Magnus because there's still some broken shit in there.
yeah,
It's kind of interesting that we never saw a full-on scoring superstar freak point guard. I guess you could call late Ragnar a bit into that type of category, but he was pass first for the vast majority of his career.
And Senna Sharp also maybe not enough scoring still.
Yeah, Senna Sharp was also like very all-rounded. I think you can take it a bit more could have taken a bit more into the scoring extreme and
Yeah.
still be incredibly efficient, especially for point guard. But yeah, that's something for the future, maybe now.
All right. Up next is the SBA draft. Well, actually, the SBA draft is already like pretty much done and gone, but with most of it or all of it, I think now all of it in the books.
I don't think quite in the books.
Oh, not all of it. Yeah, only 10 picks made, but it's been.
I think we still have one guy, even though he's inactive, left on the board.
Yeah.
Um,
Still, we're gonna move on to what happened in the SBA entry draft of season 64 with the first pick that the Las Vegas Jokers received by some. Well, actually, it was their own pick, right?
it was their own pick, yeah.
Yeah, with 34 wins, they won the lottery to select first in the SBA draft. Notably, San Diego Corsairs and the Pittsburgh Ironmen also at 34 picks or 34 wins selected. 7th for Pittsburgh and 8th for San Diego's pick. So very good luck for them. They first selected Cheryl Fontaine. Do you think this suits their team? Last we talked about them, I mentioned it was the final piece for the Infinity Gauntlet to get Fela Abiola, but now it's like they're trying to build an
One up
extra
you.
extra finger into their gauntlet.
Yeah, I think that it's a great fit for them. I mean, another great defender that can come in whenever Fox is in foul trouble or Pablo is in foul trouble or Iguodala is in foul trouble. So that front court from 3 to 5 with those 4 guys is pretty nasty. I mean, as you said, you two teams were in similar area win wise. If you would have gotten the first pick, would you have picked up Fontaine as well, or would you have gone a different direction?
I think I would have tried to trade the pick for a player in the 3 to 4.5 million salary bracket with like one of the best players in their draft year in that bracket. But if I was just making a selection, I would probably have been deciding between like Fontaine and Jim Blue, maybe. I think Jim Blue is eligible to play shooting guard as well, right? Or some other position, yeah.
Yeah, point guard and shooting guard.
Yeah, so I would have like been between those two because Fontaine also like is not a standard center. Instead, Fontaine is small forward and center. But I don't think I would have liked to have like Perse and Trindle Anderson and then like a defense only small forward. While that would have been sort of interesting, I don't think it would give us that kick right now to be much better. And instead, it would have been a slow process to get there in maybe 2 or 3 seasons instead. So, yeah, I think my first instinct would have been just trying to trade the pick for a player like, let's see, who would be a perfect example of what I said? Someone like Dixie Congo, maybe. That's probably very high end. But yeah, players like that in the 4th and 5th years of their contracts and top of their respective draft class and eligible to play small forward or shooting guard as well. So that's what I probably would have aimed to do. But yeah, I think it's all in all a good pick. I'm just foreseeing some trouble with Iguodala, Morales, Fontaine, and Kane Fox Jr. all for only being available to play 3 positions on the court, but that should sort itself out by the time they hit some sort of a salary cap crunch in the coming seasons anyway, so I'm not too
Yeah,
bothered
and
by
I
it.
mean, if you have great players to trade, then you
Yeah,
obviously
that's
have
like
the
a
value.
massive luxury instead of a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but back to your point, I think it still would have made a lot of sense for you to pick up Fontaine, um, because I think your offense in Pittsburgh is already pretty decent. I mean, you have a pretty good scoring big man with Perse, and have one scoring focused guard and another one that's yeah, let's say an elite playmaker. Um, but the defense is lacking quite behind the other playoff teams last season. So I think maybe a defense first player would have made a lot of sense, along with some defensive improvements along the whole team to just like get this team playoff ready or in a playoff shape while you let your two star scorers do their thing. I think
Yeah.
that could have still very much very well
Yeah,
enough in your favor.
it's a good idea all in all, and then I could like more focus on I wouldn't have to get my fouling, blocking, and stealing very much high up on my own player, and I could instead focus on the things I set out to do originally. But that's still up in the air, like what I need to do and what we all need to do as a team. So that's all good because there's a lot of salary cap space, and there's also a free agency coming up. So there's a lot of things up in the air with our team structure and team defense as well. But with the second overall pick, podcast favorite, the Boston Minutemen select Klaus Koenig out of Thunder Bay. Yeah, we've always marked the Boston Minutemen like game plan and strategy for a long-term vision. But do you think now there might be one in place with Koenig pretty much becoming the leader of the team immediately as a rookie?
I think in general the direction is quite clear set to we are rebuilding full scope. I think Boston traded away almost all of their contributors from last season for future picks or some young players um, that could amount to something. I'm not sure if Koenig is the type of guy you want to start your rebuild with, or the type you want to end your rebuild with. Like, I always like defense first or strong defensive players as like the finishing piece because they can be very impactful on winning teams very early on, opposed to elite scorers who need that TPE level build up to really reach their potential. But I don't think you can go wrong with that. How about you? Do you think picking a defensive first player as the first piece of your rebuild is the way to go because it's easier to like get offensive players along the way and then mesh them together somehow? Or what's your take on that?
I think it's one or the other. Like it doesn't really matter to me much for a defensive player. It's possible that they could also foresee their value in free agency being much higher than staying around for 1 or 2 more seasons while your team develops young talent or gets offensive players in the perimeter instead. But like generally, I think the idea is one or the other, anyways, because the same thing could happen with offensive players quite easily. It just doesn't seem to happen very often. So I think it's a wash both ways. Like it's a great player to begin, and it would be a great player to finish off your rebuilding. You just have to manage it from here to have a clear vision and not string it along for too long.
But were you surprised by Atlanta even moving that pick, given that Atlanta's team has basically two building blocks only right now, which are both big men, to be noted here. But very surprised by them moving that number 2 selection.
No, not necessarily. I think they were gauging the landscape and their top options. Like this is, I have no information on this, but I would figure it's like this that they could take Koenig, they could take Fontaine, or they could take Jim Blue as like sort of a complementary players to their two players right now, but two of them don't quite fit as well, and one of them probably has expressed their feelings about maybe not going back to Atlanta on this player. So I think it just fell apart from there, and then they figured that they don't have any other premium options that they would like at least. So that's my view on the situation, and yeah, I guess it's a very slow process then moving your pick and not having all too much right now again for another season. But if the organization and the players are all fine with it, then like don't really have anything to try to convince them otherwise. It's just very unorthodox managing, like pretty much having a very high value asset and then settling for lower value on the asset. That's just how I saw it after all
Yeah,
this.
maybe Boston is banking, Atlanta's banking on Boston 66 first being in a similar range again.
Yeah.
But obviously it's just speculation at this point.
Yeah, he's played the lottery, but it could be very helpful for them. And then they also, yeah, they get another season to try to figure it out and another new draft class of players to figure it out. If they wish and are all comfortable with it, then it's fine. Sort of slow and not to my tastes, really, but yeah, it's fine. With the third week, the Milwaukee Maulers have selected Hollywood Livin. What do you think about this player, Hollywood Livin? I think the same as the other teams, like Maulers could use any help they could get, pretty much. Even though they've now like sort of mixed it up, but to play the two timelines like the Golden State Warriors of real life, where they have like a premium today, but also like a theoretical premium of future. Hollywood Living fits in quite well with Leslie Burns and Ralph Walters at least. So, what do you think about the pick here?
I mean, another Hollywood for Milwaukee.
Mm.
That's going to be interesting, definitely. But yeah, I think Levin is a great pick, great player. That could definitely evolve into like a dominant front court with Leslie Bronze. With Valters feeding them from the outside in the future, and now even Janiszewski being there from I think Washington traded him there. So I think I quite like this team and this pick. It's obviously banking on a first gen um, being better for the future than some other recreate options that were still left on the board. But yeah, I quite like this pick.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's pretty much like how I said. Like it's gonna be interesting with the two timelines, and yeah, hopefully they can make it work seamlessly in the future and even today. Like it would be interesting to see this amount of young players in the playoffs already next season, if possible. With the fourth overall pick, then the New York Rails select Jim Blue from the Portsmouth Hydra. Are you surprised that in a vacuum that Jim Blue was only selected fourth, or is it like still sort of reasonable if you consider another player like CJ Udoka is still on the board at this point? With
I don't think it's a big surprise. I mean, Blue made waves as the super scoring guard at Portsmouth who took a lot of touches and who is obviously going to expect a lot of touches on the SBA level as well. Um, which is not that easy if you have two prime players, as New York does with playoff aspirations and the likes. So yeah, I think it's a reasonable range for blue, and it's going to be interesting how he meshes with the established stars in New York, and if New York can, yeah, make it back to the playoffs with him.
Yeah, they already also had like in my opinion, the best performing point guard in last season's SBA, or did they? Wait, what?
Yeah, it's Sanita Samora is still hanging in free agency officially,
All right, in free
but
agency
I
now,
very
yeah.
much expect Kerm to resign himself. I mean, would be a surprise if he didn't resign himself.
Yeah, the Zanetta costs 5 million in salary, and they still have 9 million left in space, so that should be quite reasonable. But yeah, their roster with Zanetta would be Jim Blue, point guard, shooting guard, Connor Dyson, point guard, shooting guard, then the Zamoras, who are freak point guard and freak shooting guard. So it would like shuffle things up quite a bit, but yeah, I don't like. I think they can make it work quite easily. I just think it's wasting a lot of potential in Sanieta, especially because it was
Yeah,
such a good season last season. So then giving the reins to either Dyson or Blue, it's gonna be a downgrade immediately. Even though it's not like they are bad players, it's just not the same kind of players or the same high caliber of player.
yeah, totally agree there.
With the fifth pick, the Toronto Thunderbirds select Prince Bynum. The commentary from the front office, or former front office actually, in Toronto is that he can score with the best of them, and with the young core we have, he can fit right in. Suppose that's true with Toronto. Anything they could have is
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, that's true. I'm still very much surprised by the pick. Not that it's a bad pick per se. Um, but Bynum slowed down a bit last season with his earning. Um, is not, or at least I haven't seen him as active as he used to be, which was hyperactive, which would have made the pick a no-brainer to be like, yeah, sure,
Mm.
similar to Livin. But I think with some of the options still left on the board, I'm not sure if this isn't a reach for Toronto, but maybe Bynum proves me wrong and earns 12 again a week and just goes on a tier.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say about than echo your sentiments about Bynum personally, and then like yeah, Toronto can use any help they can get because they were bad and they're not trying to purposefully move their timeline forward and instead want players now. So figures that it's still a good pick, but yeah, the more confusing or interesting part is this former Toronto Thunderbirds legend, Lefty, with his new player CJ Udoka, is picked by Seattle at number 6. Why do you think Lefty was all the way down at 6th instead of in the top 3 even?
Honestly, don't know. I assume it's something like what we have seen with other recreates, where you have a very clear path in mind or a very clear team you want to play for and communicate that to the GMs during your drafty interviews. Um, but it's pure speculation. Why lefties slowed down all the way, which was very surprising to me.
Mm.
I don't know. Maybe you as a GM have some insight on that you can share. Um, but yeah, I don't know what else makes sense.
Well, I haven't talked to Lefty about it, so I don't know. But I figure it's something between like Boston preferred to have Koenig instead of Udoka, and Jokers don't need a player who is trying to be like Kane Fox Jr. but already like also 2 years younger or stuff like that. And the Real definitely don't need a player who is one-dimensional scoring. So
Mm.
that just pretty much leaves one of the two others, like Toronto or Milwaukee, to be the team to break it up. And for Milwaukee, even it's like questionable if they would like to have a.
But
Is there a difference in their salary between Hollywood Living and? There shouldn't be, right?
there shouldn't be. I think all draftees nowadays get 1 million.
But Hollywood Living
Um,
is at 1.5.
yes. Let's check what Lefty is earning. He's also at 1.5.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Um,
so there is no difference then. Yeah, I was thinking
yes,
there's maybe a lefty cost 1.5 million and Hollywood Living cost 1 million, so that's why they prefer to go with that. But then I must say I have no idea about this then. Like the other teams make sense, but then it's between like Milwaukee or Toronto to select Udoka, and if they also like maybe there is something like Lefty didn't want to play for Toronto again, which is sort of a shame because I figured he would have fit quite well on this roster, just trying to pump up his offensive stats a whole lot while the team builds around him. And for
mm,
Milwaukee, I'm not sure. So it's a very good pick for the Knights, I think.
yeah, definitely. I'm kind of surprised that New York didn't take him then,
Mm,
because he would, as we discussed when we were at the Jim Blue pick, that a big would fit the current situation of like Sanita Zamora as the top tier point guard and Zana maybe also being better at the perimeter than as a big right now.
yeah,
Um, so picking a big would have made more sense in my eyes.
yeah,
But maybe there's something we don't know, we don't see. Um,
yeah. Then with the seventh pick, the Pittsburgh Pirates select Care Bear. I was originally very active in trying to get this trade, uh, get this draft pick traded to have something more immediate. And they higher TPE total for a team, but then it's not. I didn't get the offers I was really hoping for in the end, and there
mm,
was some sort of a communication problem with the very good offer. So we just end up selecting Care Bear then for. I think Care Bear then costs 1 million instead of 1.5 million, and also very much considered to be the best player on the board because everyone was now saying and trying to get the trade talks going once more. So even though I didn't think much of it previously, when I noticed how many people wanted to have this pick now for Care Bear, and I'm not sure, but I think I've coached Smeech in both SPA and SPDL for a little while at some point. Maybe not
he
SPDL.
was in the SBA with Sean O'Moran. I think he also got traded to Pittsburgh, drafted to Pittsburgh back then.
Yeah, but that was way long ago. Yeah. Anyways, I guess I talked to him previously about things in the SPDL and recruitment, and then I probably talked to him in the Pittsburgh server way back when. So yeah, there's already sort of a relationship in place and fits the salary cap and fits all of it positionally. So I just think it's an all right pick and no problems there. Do you want to go through the rest of the picks, or should we move on to some of the other things before we go?
I mean, let's maybe say one sentence to the last two picks
Yeah, all
because
right. Yeah.
I don't think we need to go over the inactives. That's
Yeah,
not
with
needed.
the 8th pick, the St. Louis Battalion select Colton Cooper. They were also very happy with their pick, from what I heard, even though they were very much also trying to get something happen for Care Bear. The Battalion, they have a sort of a win now team in order, so I guess they wanted someone for the 1 million salary slot. So
Mm.
just makes complete sense to pick the best player or considered best player on offer there.
Yeah.
And then the Washington Wild select Chad, which is a
Yeah,
quite
that's
the name.
good. I mean, he's inactive. He sort of came back
Yeah, but
as
also
sort of
left.
a reunion for the Lightning, and then I said, yeah, but I won't go really too deep into this. I don't.
Yeah.
But I think still a solid build that you can plug in as a filler type of thing.
Yeah, and
then
who
Cody
knows
Culverson.
if they talk it out and if Daspo still have some interest in the next 7 seasons. I don't think he's going to be on the Wild roster for 7 seasons, but then yeah, it might prove to be some value at some point for someone. So it's just a fun little player. And then currently we're at the 10th overall pick where the Philadelphia Prowlers selected Coberson, which is another weirdo name. But yeah,
I honestly haven't really heard of the player yet.
yeah. Do you think Coberson will be rostered by Philadelphia or not?
Maybe. I don't even know how Philly's lineup is looking so far for the season. Maybe as a sort of like cheap 6-man.
Oh, but he's free,
doesn't.
so yeah.
Yeah, he's for free, therefore a cheap 6-man type of thing. And if he comes back, you have a plus. If not,
Yeah,
well,
and I think Moon played for Joey in the SPDL, so there could be something there.
it could be.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. What we had next was a couple of different things still ongoing in the SPA. There's a lot of interest in some topics more than others. Nepto can decide if we want to talk about them or not. I really don't care too much, but there's I think it's 3 new general managers now that Kid Chai has stepped down as the general manager of Toronto Thunderbirds, so he'll be replaced by Adams, widely considered maybe the worst general manager of some time, along with B. Sanchez 55 and
I think there was a GM who quit after 2 or 3 hours. So
yeah, but that's like they couldn't have even been bad. Like they can't do anything bad if they just quit.
Also true.
It's just a bad hire, but it's not like they were a bad GM. They had the audacity to step down immediately. And like, oh no, this is too much for me. Fuck this. Yeah. Best of luck for Adams. They have a lot of things to settle down in Toronto, like we talked about with the draft selection. So, yeah.
Let's see how this one shakes out. If it
Yeah.
becomes a reload of San Diego, we all hope it doesn't.
For Montreal, Luke Chesvu is also relieving his duties by, I think, completely aiming to leave the SPA. So now the Montreal general managership goes to Don't Call Me Carson, which is very fun. Carson has done a good job, I think, by fostering a lot of fun stuff, positivity, commenting on presentations, and also has recently been a head coach as well, I think.
Yeah, he has been a head coach as well. He's put in a lot of effort all around the league. And he's a great guy. So looking forward to see what he does with Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he also has. Oh, actually, maybe not. I'm not sure if he ever played for the Hyenas. Maybe not. I was just thinking that he has some sort of a relationship with K-Dang, who is still one of the most notorious, most famous Montreal general manager. But alas, and also one of the big news of recent times, there's a new Miami general manager. Just to read the SBA commissioner's note on this announcement. League decided it was not a situation that we needed to mandate, but the teams were able to work out a solution if they chose to. A 3-man a 3-team trade in which an asset was incorrectly labeled. A deal was not then agreed upon, and separately Engine retired his player, one of the assets in the previous deal. Yabba dabba doo. Decision was made to unretire Dom the Explorer and leave him as player in the league for the duration of his contract, a period of time that Engine would not be able to recreate. Interesting. And then Engine afterwards has been removed from the position as GM of Miami, and Taiwo is the replacement. Didn't ever think Taiwo would be interested in becoming a GM, but here we are. Also, player Lonzo was banned for personal attacks in the aftermath of this decision. Aside from the other like administrative parts, like Engine, a very like attentive and some would say like a try-hard general manager, which is good since sport is about competition. No longer a GM then. What did you think of his few years in the reins of the Miami Vice?
I think he's done a great job. I mean, I think it was like 2 one-season rebuilds he pulled off.
Yeah.
Like that 60-win team with Ben, I think, even on it. So Kendrick Schneider or whatever Ben's last player was called. Then a one-season reload, and then I think even a finals appearance right back.
Yep.
So that's obviously some impressive stuff. I wish this one would have went different than it did in the end. Unfortunate situation all around, but we can't change it. And yeah, I think you also know enough of the details.
Yeah.
Don't need to be made public, or doesn't everything need to be made public at all?
Yeah, well, most of it, since all of this was made before I was even taking part in any discussion at all. Most of it I already forgot anyway, so I really like. Well, I would say I don't care, but I also do care because it's like a massive thing in the SBA. And I'm supposed to also be part of the board of directors now, so sort of I should care, but like this was not my decision at all. So in that way, I don't care. But yeah, Taiwo as his replacement. What do you think Taiwo, with his long-standing ties to Miami, could do? Obviously, if he even replicates parts of what Engine was able to do up and down the roster and SBA trade machines and SBA finals, and having fantastic players at his disposal seemingly every year, it should be great. But Miami is now a long way away from what we once knew them to be, since there's now been multiple iterations of their coaches. So, what do you foresee for Taiwo in the near future?
I mean, Taiwo was a very easy hire because he was on the list for, I think, 1 or 2 seasons now, and was also part of the team already. So
Yeah, it makes complete sense then. Yeah.
no big system change, and we will see what he makes of the opportunity he has at hand. I think he's made some moves already. I haven't completely kept up with it, but yeah.
But yeah, yeah. The other talking point I had here was just a sec, actually. Right. It was as like now it's a little bit more difficult to act as this way. Maybe not for me, but maybe for you, since you now have this preconceived notion that I know almost all the same things as you do about the inner workings of the league. And also because I have a responsibility to uphold as a member of the board of directors, but also I haven't been paid any job pay for the time I've been named, so sort of whatever.
You haven't been?
No, but that's just a little joke. I don't really. I don't really make it. I don't really let it change my way of working or decisions. But I haven't like I don't have job
but you
pay.
should
Yeah, I should.
have. Let me just quickly change it. Why didn't you say earlier?
I've said 4 times.
Payroll.
Not to you necessarily. Even to you. I said to you as well at some point.
Really?
Yeah. Let's see.
That must have slipped the cracks.
I think it was in
Confirm.
live conversation in the Discord channels or something about that. Anyways, yeah.
Okay, so now at least you're added to the payroll.
Oh, excellent. Now I don't
Maybe
need
I
to
should
do
double check
podcasts.
for the rest of the of the bunch. But yeah.
I'm sure Arres will let someone know because he's also like been very active in promoting
He actually
conversation and
also
change.
isn't on the payroll as well.
Sweet.
Shame on you all for not telling us
But I've been
that you're
telling.
not receiving your pay.
I've also said it in public, like I don't. Anyway, yeah, this is very, very excellent SBA radio. So I'm just gonna move the timestamp up. But yeah, the next topic was concerning a ban question mark, and then also through that Luke Cheswool leaving the SBA because of these decisions, leading to Miami general manager being replaced. Playoff Lonzo Oscar was banned for personal attacks in the aftermath of decision. Yeah, when we were talking about this, I was saying that. Anyways, yeah, enough about my job pay. Let's just move on to this. There was a article at some point I heard, I didn't see at first, but before it was deleted or hidden, something about these guys are corrupt, which is different than being ill or what's it called? Like corrupt is not the correct word, but I guess it suits for these purposes that
I don't know
they were
what you're
writing.
trying to say right now.
Because I haven't read it, I don't know.
It called the leadership. That's correct. But I'm not trying what you are trying to say right now. So I can't help you find the word.
Yeah. Anyways, was banned, and Luke also left the league, and this is like this doesn't happen all too often. Usually, people if they leave, they just leave. They don't make any big deal about it, and inadvertently or not, both Oscar and Luke made a big deal about it, and this resulted in a GM change and a article being hidden. But yeah, I just found it very interesting because this was a talking point for some time, and I wasn't part of it at all. So I was just interested in. Do you think this was a decision to, or decision made like lightly, or was this like? Well, actually, I can't really ask you that. Sort of. But anyways, was this decision taken lightly, or was it like after thorough consideration, like to ban someone for personal attacks and also leaking some sort of private conversation?
I mean, bans are never issued lightly. It's not like someone looks at it and say,
oh, there you go.
Fuck it, I ban him. That's never happening.
Yeah.
Obviously, because otherwise, what would we be? But yeah, it was a very how do I say it? Very irritating piece. Also because a lot of the stuff in there wasn't true. It didn't really stick together. And as Oscar had announced that he had left already, I think like twice or something like that, and it was very, very aggressive and very with personal attacks. It was more like a scorched, felt a bit like a scorched earth approach.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was no point in keeping Oscar around there. He made it clear that he doesn't want to be part of the league either. So ultimately, the decision was made that he's not going to be part of the league anymore, even if he wishes to come back in a week or so. Luke, no one had a part in that. He decided he wanted to leave. That's his decision, and yeah.
Yeah. One of the most interesting things I've always noted, like ever since I joined the SBA, is that people outside of the board of directors and administration always sort of talk negatively about people making decisions and how it's just circle jerking their own opinions and trying to impose them on a ever-growing league. But then people who have been part of the board of directors at any point don't ever, even if they previously held those beliefs, then after that they don't like have anything bad to say about how decisions are being made. And from my short experience now, I think it's even too collaborative sometimes, where everything gets put to a vote instead of making a decision to keep sims going or keep playoff sims going quicker. So I think like people on the outside have a very narrow and difficult to understand perspective on how most decisions get made. And it's true that a lot of things and rule changes and system concepts are not always successful, but also people would get bored if they spend 25 seasons in the same league doing the same pressing of the button and claiming activity checks and even job pay at some point, but and not it ever changing. So yeah, it's just an interesting perspective I've seen, that people on the outside always have this negative idea and that they could do better, and if something was like a fully democratic vote between like 150 members of the league, then it would be much better. But then if they ever take part of the decision making process for themselves, then they suddenly actually understand that it's not so easy as they maybe previously made it seem, or others on the outside make it seem. So yeah, that's just my small bit on it. Before we leave for the hour, there's a new SBA historical concept here, top 100 players in SBA history, which I was a part of voting as well. The first 25 or 26, I'm not sure if that's 25 or 26, from 100 to 75 place players have been released this week, actually just yesterday. What's your first thoughts on a project like this? Do you think it'll be interesting to see what how the voters, who are sort of vetted and then some not vetted, decided upon them, and how it contrasts with how the general public believes the players to be listed, and even how you believe the rankings would have been listed if you were to make your own top 100 list?
I mean, obviously, I think I have to put this as a disclaimer. It's a great amount of work, and shout out to Ava for organizing all of that. I know the discussions behind the scenes weren't easy involving this list. At some point, I even was offered, but I was kind of stuck in work and didn't really respond. And felt like, okay, I don't have the time to devote to this much discussion. Obviously, as always the case, I have my disagreements with parts of this list. Everyone will have their disagreements with parts of this list. But I think it's a great thing to look at to drive some engagement, to drive some discussion. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next three parts of the list being released soon.
Yeah. Did you read through it all yesterday of the first 20, 25, 26 players?
Yeah, I glanced over the first 25 players and saw if there was everyone that stuck out as odd to me. I mean, there are some obvious cases, but yeah, to each their own decision.
As a voter on this list, I was very interested to see. I'm not gonna go through all because I didn't know about all of these players like thoroughly before I looked at them and read through their index pages and playoff performances in the past. But one of the key things I noticed was that you have at 88 Sebastian Steele, a very successful player, 4 championships, 2 playoff MVPs, a defining player for what you said about a dominant point guard, shooting guard player, making it so that the opposing teams need to adapt and they can't just throw out 300 TP players to go up against them. At 88, Sebastian Steele. And then at 87, ahead of Sebastian Steele, a former, maybe not a teammate of Steele's, they didn't overlap that much, but still another former Brooklyn and Atlanta Vipers player, Ken Armstrong, who was in the league at the same time as a lot of people currently in the SBA and maybe even listening to this, but no one would figure that Ken Armstrong is a top 100 player of all time, including me. But there is Ken Armstrong with 2 championships with the Brooklyn Bullets and 1 playoff MVP with the Brooklyn Bullets. Career averages worse than Sebastian Steele. Historical like footprint or foothold in the SBA lore, pretty much lower than Sebastian Steele, I would say. Minors League, in this case NCAA success, not very interesting, was overshadowed by Andrew Wall in his time in Maryland, and even some would say by Isaac Allen Richmond and Eddie Donovan in terms of like interest, because Ken Armstrong, the user behind Ken Armstrong, wasn't like very vocal or notorious. I think it was Stamkos fan, the user behind it. So that's just the major thing I had with this list. Like when this one was released here today or yesterday, my first reaction was like, is this like complete dog water that Ken Armstrong somehow got more or a higher proportion of the vote than Sebastian Steele? But I guess it's the way it goes. Other players look to be in sort of a decent order. I read some comment from Nano about Chen would be higher if he didn't play for longer. For me personally, I don't care for the career averages for players who I know that played more than 9 seasons. Like Chen spent one season having like 9 points and 7 rebounds for a season. I don't care about that too much, and I ranked Chen higher actually than 81st. Much higher. So yeah, and interesting also that I think there is. Actually, I'm not sure if there is a MVP player from the voting period like omitted, because that's actually interesting. I'm gonna have to take a look right quick, but I think most of the well-known MVP players, at least, are on the top 100 list. So that just goes to show that the voting process from year to year has actually stayed quite reasonable, since after 63 seasons we can still say that this guy won an MVP and he's still considered a top 100 player of all time.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Just looking at career averages and stuff like that doesn't tell the whole story. I disagree with some more points that you named just now. But I think that's semantics and will be subjective for everyone, which they agree or disagree on this list. But
yeah, I think like when I was thinking it through, I figured that Alexander Marcus is probably the lowest rated MVP player, just on virtue of looking through it. And Alexander Marcus is actually quite high on the list, isn't he? 78th, yes. So that just goes to show that there's going to be a lot of interesting things to come. And there's going to be a lot of famous names up front. Definitely, but there's also going to be a lot of surprises. Like I think, based on what the people were reading here in the comments and commenting on the thread, they were. It's actually quite surprising that no one is pointing out how a very successful player and championships gatherer Senna Sharp is in the bottom of the list. 75th, yeah. And Hector Fuego is considered one of the best point guards of all time, a Hall of Famer, 76th. So that just goes to show, either a focus on a lot of MVP trophies, or B, a focus on just players playing big positions rather than point guard or shooting guard positions being considered much more valuable, which is still true in award voting and stuff like that this in season 63. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting things to come, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm gonna hopefully link the article with this podcast, but if I don't, or if you can't find my linking of the article, it's also below this podcast post on the SBA network. It's named the SBA Top 100 Players of All Time. First edition is 100 to 75. So keep an eye on that while it develops all the way up to number 1. It's going to be interesting. If someone can mock draft the top 10 in correct order, I will give them a hypothetical 500 uncapped DP. All right, is that all? Yes.
Yeah, I think we're already way over time, as usual.
Yeah, way over time. Didn't really set a schedule, but yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. It's been a pleasure once again, and hopefully, well, now that I get my other job pay parts, I wouldn't really need to do anything else than press job pay activity check, and I would have my full DP for the week. But depending on what interesting things there are to talk about, I will try to keep this at least seasonal. And while I'm on my vacation now, we can definitely Nepto abiding do this weekly still. So keep an eye out for more episodes soon. And thank you to Nepto once again for stopping by and talking about ban, GMs, and Jim Blue, among others. No? Alright. See ya.